All right, let me start with a simple question. What if I told you the most powerful family in modern history never ruled a country, never had a king, and never appeared on a ballot? And yet, presidents listened to them. Empires borrowed from them, and wars were decided because of them. Here's the wild part. Most people have never even heard their name. And if you stay with me for the next few minutes, you'll understand why power doesn't work the way we're taught in school. Let me ask you something. When you think about who controls the world, what comes to mind? Politicians? Billionaires? Big corporations? That's what most people think. But real power usually belongs to the people who control money, timing, and information. And about 200 years ago, one family figured this out before anyone else, not by ruling countries, but by quietly controlling the system behind them. To understand how they did that, we have to go back to a very different world. Back then, kings looked unstoppable. Massive armies, gold-covered palaces, total authority. But here's what history class usually skips. Kings were almost always broke. Wars drained money fast. Empires were insanely expensive. And rulers were terrible at managing finances. So they borrowed. And slowly, the people lending the money became more powerful than the people wearing the crowns. Because when someone owes you everything, you don't need a throne. Now here's where the story gets interesting. Instead of putting all their money in one country, this family did something no one had ever tried. They split themselves up. 5 brothers, 5 major cities, 5 financial centers across Europe. Each brother handled business locally, but they shared information constantly, which meant something huge. Before governments even knew what was happening, this family had already reacted. They didn't bet on kings, they didn't bet on countries, they bet on the system itself. Think about how fast news travels today. Now imagine a world with no internet, no phones, no TV. Back then, information was slow, unless you controlled your own network. Private messengers, fast ships, encrypted letters. So when something major happened, a revolution, a war ending, a government collapsing, they knew first. And in financial markets, knowing first means winning every time. There was one war that changed everything, a massive conflict that reshaped Europe. While armies were fighting on the battlefield, this family was playing a completely different game. They financed governments, moved money across borders, supplied entire armies, and here's the part most people miss. They didn't care who won, because war creates debt, and debt creates leverage. So when the war ended, countries celebrated victory. But financially, they were trapped, and the same family held the paperwork. Here's something school never really explains. Violence forces people to obey, but debt makes people choose to obey. If a country can't pay its debts, its currency collapses, its economy crashes, and its people suffer. So leaders do whatever it takes to keep their creditors happy. That's not a theory, that's how the system works. And this family understood that earlier than anyone else. Now here's the smartest part of all. They stayed invisible. They avoided attention. They avoided fame. They avoided headlines. Because visibility creates enemies. Instead, they worked quietly behind the scenes, advising governments, helping design banking systems, influencing financial rules, not with force, with expertise. By the time people noticed their influence, it already felt normal. So why didn't we learn this clearly in school? Because history loves drama. Big battles, big heroes, big villains. But systems aren't exciting to teach, even though systems decide everything. And the most powerful systems don't announce themselves. They just work. As the world changed, this family adapted. Gold became paper, paper became credit, credit became policy. They didn't control governments, they influenced how governments functioned. And that's far more powerful, because politicians come and go, but systems stay. Now, quick reality check. This family doesn't control everything. They're not pulling every string, but they helped build the financial playbook the modern world still runs on today. Banks use it, corporations use it, governments use it. The real story isn't about one family, it's about understanding how power actually works. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Power today doesn't wear crowns. It moves through markets, through information, through incentives and systems. And the people who understand those systems don't need permission. They don't rule you. They shape the world you operate inside.